Welcome to the Cybersecurity Simplified podcast, where we take the mystery out of today's top security threats and solutions. Cybercriminals are getting rich by literally holding corporate data and networks hostage. These so-called ransomware attacks are on the rise because they work. They're hard to detect and almost impossible to stop. In 2021, ransomware damages worldwide are projected to be $20 billion, and that is 57 times more than they were in 2015, says Cybersecurity Ventures. The research firm says that number will grow to 265 billion, that's a B, by
Yeah, so it's like
2031.
capitalize the B because it
Yeah.
is important to note.
And with a new attack every 2 seconds. In this episode of Cybersecurity Simplified, we are excited to talk about how to stop ransomware in its tracks with our latest solution, the Overwatch Ransomware Kill Switch. Hi there, I'm Susanna Song,
And I'm Dave Barton.
and we have a special guest on today's pod.
We do.
That is the CEO of AirGap. AirGap is our vendor partner that powers Overwatch Ransomware Kill Switch. And he is the CEO of AirGap, Ritesh Agarwal. And without further ado, I'm going to bring him into the conversation. And there he is. Hi, welcome to the pod, Ritesh.
Hi, Susan. Nice to be here.
Yeah, so
Hey, good morning, Ritesh.
Good morning, Dave.
Ritesh, why don't you introduce yourself to our viewers and our listeners?
Absolutely. Hi, guys. My name is Ritesh Agarwal. I'm the CEO and founder of AirGap Networks, one of the most exciting companies out here in Silicon Valley.
And Ritesh, tell us how AirGap, or better yet, Overwatch Ransomware Kill Switch works.
Oh, wow. That ransomware kill switch is one of the fundamental innovations, I think, that has been overdue in the industry for a long time now. I've spoken to so many of my customers in the past, and they've all wished that they had an emergency shut-off wall, like you see at the gas station when they're hit with ransomware. Because the truth is, today, if you ask any CISO or CIO a question that what would you do if you're hit with ransomware, the answer would almost always be we would watch the house burn down. Or the worst answer is I'm going to shut down the entire network, which is not an acceptable answer because you could have loss of productivity. Oftentimes, you're not very sure if the ransomware is real or it's a false positive and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the ransomware kill switch essentially provides you that nirvana solution where if you are hit with ransomware or if you suspect you're hit with ransomware, you can take that quick action and reduce the blast radius, stop the propagation of ransomware instantaneously for your corporate offices, for your factories, and for your data center all alike. And that's the beauty of the solution is it is your escape hatch, if I may, in case if you're hit with ransomware.
How does it work, though? You would think people would have already come up with this idea, right? We just spewed out a bunch of statistics. I mean, this is a very lucrative business. It's as a service out there. Why wouldn't, first of all, why isn't out there already in the marketplace? And number two, why isn't everyone adding this solution into their networks?
And Ritesh, before you answer, I'm going to jump in, Susanna. When I first was approached about AirGap, and I spent some time with Ritesh out in California, I saw the potential,
Mm-hmm.
right? There is nothing like this on the market, and Ritesh will talk a little bit about that. It is exciting. I don't get excited about technology often. In fact, if you talk to my company, they'll tell you that I've been super giddy or excited about this opportunity because as a network guy, I see how it works. I know the potential it has. And I know we talk about ransomware kill switch, and that's a pretty lofty goal,
Mm-hmm.
But it works, and it works really well. And with that, Ritesh, tell us how it works. What I'd love to hear in this broadcast is how you came up with the idea, right? What were you thinking about that led you to go, if we did this, we could do this. And then more importantly, tell us how it works.
Absolutely. Like, a couple of questions sort of embedded in this. One is how it works, why the competitors cannot figure this out, and how did we come up with the idea of ransomware kill switch? So I'll try to answer all of them together. One is, look, I was part of a large organization in my previous role, running a large security business of roughly $400 million in revenue, give and take. And uh, and I realized that there are so many security vendors and they're not fixing a fundamental flaw. And that's why, despite billions of dollars being spent in security, customers continue to get breached, and we see new headline every day. And I think the fundamental flaw, while there are many, the two that I narrowed down on was the notion of this lateral threat movement. Once the attacker has got into your house, there is no way for you to stop them from moving east west or laterally, so to speak, inside the house. And the most CISOs and CIOs would vouch for this. They would confirm that that's the case because nobody's figured out a solution to stop that lateral movement. And this is true for campuses. This is true for office factories. This is true for data centers as well. The other fundamental flaw is once you're inside, not only you can move laterally, but now you have full license to connect to large number of business applications because the traditional firewalls are designed to protect inside, outside in attack, not the inside out attack. So once you're inside, when the attacker is inside, they have free license to move around and breach your application and data. So we started thinking, how can we solve this problem? And I had an interesting sort of stumbling on an idea that I thought should be scratched a little bit. And then I obviously started Air Gap after I quit my previous role and spent 6 months just planning it out and thinking it through and going the distance and came up with an idea where we can stop lateral threat movement. And it's not an easy, it's a patent approved idea now. We've solved the problem for data center, we've solved the problem for campuses, as in offices, we've solved the problem for factories. And that's why we have some large customers that are deploying air gap in factories as well. Now, we are the only one in the industry that can stop lateral threat movement without requiring any agents. Customers hate agents. Tell you this without any doubt. Agents are the most hated solution. So there are a few companies that offer lateral threat movement protection, but they force you to install agents or they force you to have custom proprietary hardware installed across your organization. Both of these are undesirable for the customers. We are the only ones that came up with this notion of protecting against lateral threat movement without requiring agents in a 100% software only solution. So, ransomware, as you know, likes to propagate. The more devices you infect, the more money you demand. The more data you steal, the more money you demand. As a CIO or an IT organization member, your role and your goal should be to stop the ransomware from propagating. Nobody is going to pay $20 worth of ransom if you have only one laptop infected, but you're likely to pay $40 million if you have 5,000 laptops infected. So what air gap would do and the way ransomware kill switch works is the moment your first machine gets infected, we would introduce this lateral movement protection policy automatically or manually if you wish to, so that the ransomware is confined to a single device or fewer devices, so-called reduce the blast radius.
Mm-hmm.
And once you do that, you know that you're not going to be held against, and your data is not going to be stolen, and you're not going to be paying a large amount of ransom. In other words, you will not be a headline news. That's what we.
Let me interject here. How would a CIO, CISO, that company know that first device has now been breached?
Oh, that's a great question. So there are multiple ways to do that. One is we have a threat detection engine built into AirGap. And again, it's a zero false positive threat detection engine, which is where our patent is as well. Meaning we won't give you a false alarm, which is what industry is plagued with at the moment. Second is we understand and we realize our customers have invested hundreds of thousands, in some cases millions of dollars in other sophisticated tools. All they can do is potentially detect presence of threat, but they cannot take any action, especially corporate-wide action. Right? You may have tool that would detect presence of threat on a laptop, tools that detect presence of threat in an application or in an industrial device, but they just can't see the whole holistic picture across the organization. So we take information from all of these tools and then use that as a signal to decide when do we stop and what do we stop in terms of lateral threat movement. So air gap ransomware kill switch has nuances to it, which is very sophisticated, which says, look, you're 50% sure there is ransomware. You don't have to shut down the office and factories and stop the production. Maybe at that moment, you only protect your crown jewels and continue the rest of the business. As your confirmation grows based on signals from air gap and other tools, you can escalate the ransomware kill switch all the way to so we have 4 colors in the ransomware kill switch. You can pick green, yellow, orange, or red, much like DEFCON, and decide how severe response you want to have against a potential threat inside the organization.
Talk to me a little bit more about your threat detection that you talked about. It's patented. Help our audience understand if they didn't have an EDR and they didn't have something bigger looking at all the threats, how do you find the bad, or how do you detect the bad things?
Oh, that's the brilliance of air gap solution. Once again, it works across all of your infrastructure, be it application or data center or cloud or factories. What we do is we confine every endpoint, device, VM, of a machine into a network of its own. So it's confined into a network of its own. Anytime anybody tries to break out of their own network, we have sophisticated detection mechanism that has 0 false positives and 0 false negative. Meaning, let's say I put you in a so-called jail of a network of one, and if you want to communicate with anybody, you better talk to me, and I will allow you to communicate with whoever you want to communicate with, who you are authorized to communicate with and authenticated to communicate with. But let's say you're clever enough to say, I'm not going to follow these guidelines and I'm going to break out of this. We would detect it and we would protect it. We would even quarantine that offending device, inform the IT organization instantaneously that there is a infected device, no false positives here. Don't waste time thinking about it. Go take care of that. But don't worry about it. We have quarantined it, so it's not going to do any more damage. So if it's a holiday, many of the IT guys who are listening to this podcast would probably watch for it. Bad guys go after you during long weekends.
When you're not there. That's right.
There, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
And these guys have to come back to work to take an action. With air gap's quarantine capability, you can enjoy your Christmas celebration and come back next morning and take care of
Got
business.
it. Okay. So a couple of areas that when I've been talking about this opportunity with air gap that folks have asked me about is, how does it work in the cloud if I've got a bunch of cloud infrastructure, right? So that's one. Two, what if we're mostly a VMware shop and everything is virtualized? So tell me how you approach those things, Ritesh.
This is the again, cleverness of the technology. It is agnostic to where your endpoint is hosted. It could be on VMware, it could be in AWS, it could be in Azure. Completely agnostic. It'll work exactly the same way. So you now get a unified solution that is software only, that does not require any agent installation.
Right.
Because I say this again, and I'll say this again. Customers hate agents.
They do. You're right.
So we have an agentless solution that will work for cloud, much the same. Every device is quarantined and put in a confined into a network of its own, so-called network of one, which is our patent, which is our sort of key innovation. So VMware, no problem. You can migrate from VMware to cloud, no problem. Air gap will continue to work. It gives you the freedom to move to cloud and back and forth if you want to, because our technology is going to be agnostic to.
Okay. So effectively, you're putting your air gap controller in AWS.
That is right.
And then all of the AWS assets would be protected by that controller.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
I thought that was the answer. I just wanted the audience to hear that from you.
Absolutely. Look, this is an exciting area. Data center, where your crown jewels are, which is now a target for many of the attackers. You gotta have a ransomware kill switch. You gotta have lateral threat movement protection, and an air gap is probably the only one that provides that without agents.
I agree.
Yeah, it's a great solution, Ritesh. How much monitoring and management is required for companies who would like to deploy this solution in their networks?
We try to make it easy for customers to not only deploy, but have ongoing management of the platform. Now, if you detect threat, if you have to take in manual action, if you have to write security policies, these are the things you have to do. Like I said, to draw a parallel, we built a really, really good car that has zero maintenance, but somebody's got to drive from home to work.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Need the driver. And I think that's where good folks at Highwire Networks can help us and help customers beat that driver of the technology. But there is no maintenance. You never need to pop the hood and do maintenance for air gap. There's no oil changes necessary, so to speak.
And David, as we conclude this episode, how would Overwatch by Highwire Networks come in and partner with air gap in terms of management?
So a couple things that we're doing in partnership with AirGap. One is we have the ability to go on site and install it. So if Ritesh says, "Hey, we've got this opportunity in California. Do you have somebody?" We partner with them. We send somebody out who's been through training. They can help deploy it, teach it, learn it, and get it implemented. Right. So that's number one, is just pure implementation. Two is we have the ability to manage it. So for those organizations who say, "I love it, I just don't have the people to do it. I don't have the knowledge." We have a 7x24 SOC. This is what we do. And so we've brought AirGap in as one of our technology partners that all of our people are getting trained and certified and managing as well. And then I think three for us, and Ritesh, we've talked a little bit about this. We're going to use our SOC platform to automate some things, right? So where there's additional detections that we may see that the endpoint won't, we could actually let via API some changes to happen automatically, like switching the policy from green to yellow or yellow to red. Or the thing you didn't talk about, Ritesh, but I think our listeners need to know, is I can do isolation on the network without NAC, right? I can isolate an IoT device. I can isolate an OT device. I can isolate a laptop, a server, a printer, right? Printers get hacked. We've seen it. And there's no good way today, unless you've got a NAC solution deployed, which is new switches, software. It's a royal pain in the butt. You can't do it. But with AirGap, I can do that with a switch, with a turn from green to yellow and yellow to red, orange, right? I can do that. And when we couple that with our anomaly and our detection capability within our SIM platform, I'm going to automate some of those changes. Real time at 2 a.m. when we see a threat coming in and it starts to do something, I'm going to flip that switch on behalf of our end customers, to the point where I might isolate a host. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, that is huge. Being able to connect to the control point, in this case, AirGap, from what we call our broker, our master threat broker, and say, go take action. And it does. That's huge. Mm-hmm. Nobody else is doing this right.
I am impressed, and this is certainly a game changer. Thank you, Ritesh, for joining us on this episode of Cybersecurity Simplified, and we are excited to work with you and all of you out there. If you are interested in learning more about Overwatch Ransomware Kill Switch, please reach out. You can reach us at overwatch@highwirenetworks.com or marketing@highwirenetworks.com. David and I are here. We'd love to connect you with the right people. David can give demos. This is definitely changing cybersecurity as we speak. So thank you, David. Thank you, Ritesh. Be sure to join us for our next episode. What's up with the ramp up in cybersecurity regulations? Until next time, I'm Susanna Song.
And I'm Dave Barton.
And this is Cybersecurity Simplified. From all of us here at Overwatch by Highwire Networks, thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time on the Cybersecurity Simplified podcast. To learn more, visit us at highwirenetworks.com/podcast.